How is it going, everyone? The PlayStation Store is running its massive spring sale right now. It's actually wrapping up here in just a few short days, but want to do a video covering some great deals under the price of $5. So let's get right into it and let's try to go through everything pretty quickly. Let's start things off with Dishonored Definitive Edition, which is 75% off for $4.99. Great deal on Dishonored, the Definitive Edition, which is a fantastic game that I played way back originally when it came out in 2012, and kind of wild to think it's been north of a decade since one of the great games from Arcane Studios dropped, and they're about to release another great game, hopefully. Unfortunately, that won't be on PlayStation. Nevertheless, circling back to Dishonored, still a fantastic game, a really enjoyable action stealth title, and you really have the power to play the game however you want. If you want to go, action heavy and just run through the game, or if you do want to take your time, a more methodical approach. I feel like most people think the methodical approach in Dishonored is the more satisfying gameplay style, but that's really up for you to decide. The game is available through Plus Premium, but Plus Premium ain't the most greatest service in the world, so a lot of you aren't subscribed to it, but $4.99 for Dishonored I think is quite good. Next up, we got Dragon's Crown Pro, 80% off for $3.99. Obviously, an action RPG done by Vanillaware, a studio that is beloved by those that know them. Unfortunately, they're not the most well-known studio in the world, but they've done Muramasa the Demon's Blade, Odin Sphere, as well as 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. All of those games you should play, but Dragon's Crown is a really solid one, and the fact that it's $4 makes it super, super accessible. Great art style, that's kind of the Vanillaware trademark, and that shines through in Dragon's Crown. Gameplay is pretty good, and overall for $4, I think it's a pretty engaging action RPG, all things considered. Definitely check that out. Next up, Supergiant Games' Bastion, 85% off for $2.24. At this point, Supergiant Games is beloved at a wide stage, given the fact that they've done great work with Hades, and now they're working on Hades 2, but what started it all off? That was Bastion years and years ago, and it's a game that still holds up fairly well. Sure, is the gameplay a little bit dated? I mean, I guess, but it's still a pretty fun game to play through, and that art style has just aged so gracefully. The soundtrack is great, the sound direction is great, narration is strong. I just loved Bastion. The fact that it's $2 and change, really no reason not to check it out, and I would give this a strong recommendation. It was a fantastic game, and by the way, if you do buy it on PlayStation 4, you get the PlayStation Vita version as well. I know a lot of you guys are upset about what Q-Lite can be, but the Vita is still a classic handheld, and hell, you can play some Bastion on the go if that's what you want to do. Next up, I do want to give a shout to both Hotline Miami and Hotline Miami 2. Both of these games are great. Hotline Miami 1 is available through Plus Premium, while Hotline Miami 2 is available on Plus Extra. Very throwback action-oriented titles, throwback visual style, but super flashy in visuals as well. Super gruesome game, so definitely not a game that you're bringing in your kid to, get them into video games. Hotline Miami probably ain't the best one, but it's a high-octane, fast-paced, action-oriented title. Super replayable, but also fairly challenging as well. So bear that in mind when you are getting into the game. Overall, I think Hotline Miami is a great game and an enjoyable action-oriented title, and given the first game is super cheap, you might just want to check that one out. Next up, we have Mirror's Edge Catalyst, 75% off for $4.99. This was a game that was so highly anticipated, given the fact that Mirror's Edge came out all the way back in 2008. It was a game that saw, the people that played it really enjoyed it. From the parkour gameplay, interesting gameplay style, and, solid visuals and platforming gameplay. It was a super unique experience, and when we heard we were going to get another title, Mirror's Edge Catalyst, that obviously sparked a lot of interest. I would say most people would say this game was a bit of a disappointment. However, I wouldn't go as far as to say this was a bad game, and far from it. I feel like if you go back and play Mirror's Edge Catalyst now, you realize that it still has a lot of the fundamental elements that did make Mirror's Edge great, and the gameplay is still pretty solid from a platforming standpoint, and the visuals I thought were rather great in Mirror's Edge Catalyst. Yes, it's, what is it, like 7 years old at this point? That is just so wild to think about, that this game is 7 years old, but for $4.99, I think it's a great pickup. It is available through EA Play, so you can play it that way, but for $5, man, this is a really good buy, and one of those games that I feel like more people should give a shout to. I understand that if you paid $60 for it, it would have been a bit disappointing, but that's why you're paying $5, and it's fairly good at that price point. Next up, we have Injustice 2, 85% off for $2.99. Now, there is an Injustice 2 Legendary Edition. That would be the ideal way to, buy the game, considering it includes so much additional content. But, hey, if you don't want to check that out, you can check out the base game, and there is it is available through PlayStation Plus Extra, so you can play it that way. Nevertheless, Injustice 2 is a really enjoyable fighting game, and you guys know me, I don't get into fighting games from a technical aspect that much anymore. I don't get super competitive, but there is a good bit of content, and obviously you do have a lot of iconic characters in it. Like, I'm not a big DC guy, but these characters will harken back to a lot of people, and a lot of people will enjoy duking it out. And it's a game that if you have like a group of friends over, they're more casual into video games, like it's easy to get into a game like this with a bunch of iconic DC characters duking it out. And for $2.99, I think it's a fairly good pickup, so check that out. Next up, we have another Supergiant Games title in Transistor. Transistor is probably the most underrated Supergiant Games title. It just doesn't get the level of buzz that some of the other games go. It's really Transistor and Pyre. Bastion, I think, is seen as the first game, so it has a lot of buzz. Hades obviously goes without saying, but Transistor has a really cool sci-fi aesthetic, a pretty interesting gameplay style as well, and a phenomenal soundtrack here as well, and a great visual style on top of that. Like, the Supergiant Games trademark is really prevalent through all of their games from a visual standpoint and a soundtrack standpoint, and Transistor shines in those elements as well, with some unique gameplay, an interesting narrative, and overall a pretty solid game for $3.99. Fairly good pickup. It was a PlayStation Plus title way back in the day, but like at this point, that was almost a decade ago. So yeah, probably not something you have in your Plus library, but if you do give it a download and check it out. And if you don't, $3.99 is a great price. Next up, Titanfall 2 Ultimate Edition, 85% off for $4.49. Now, if you're buying Titanfall 2 these days, I feel like most people are probably going to be buying it from the standpoint of the campaign, and the campaign is really, really good. It's actually one of those elements that I feel like is most surprising about Titanfall 2, given that, it's a more multiplayer-centric game, and you can have fun with that, but the campaign is really solid, and if you want a compelling first-person shooter campaign to go in through over a weekend, Titanfall 2 is going to offer you that for sure for $4.49. Great pickup there. And lastly, I do want to give a shout to Shadowrun Returns, which is $4.99. Now, Shadowrun is very much a throwback RPG franchise. It's not super lengthy, but they are pretty enjoyable games as a tactical RPG with a unique setting, a pretty engaging story. Now, I would recommend you to buy the Shadowrun trilogy, which will get you Shadowrun Returns, Shadowrun Hong Kong, and Shadowrun Dragonfall, which are all $4.99 a pop, so essentially you're paying the price of 2 to get all 3. If not, you can get Shadowrun Returns for $4.99, and that's a decent pickup, or you can jump right into Dragonfall if you do want that. But that is going to do it for me. Again, a lot of great deals available as a part of the PlayStation Store spring sale. Really something for everybody. The sale is ending in just a couple of days, so jump on it as soon as possible. But that's going to do it for me. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.